Okay, good morning or afternoon, wherever you're having the opportunity to watch this. We are starting the lesson on evolution by natural selection. This PowerPoint will go over some of the key terms that you need to know as we move through this unit. So class started with a discussion question, adaptations in our ecosystem, which you can find on Canvas. That should have been completed at the beginning of class. It's a classwork grade where we live in a temperate deciduous forest biome. Our climate is defined by 4 distinct seasons with hot, humid summers and cold, snowy winters. So your task is to think of an organism in our ecosystem and what adaptations that organism has that makes it able to survive well in the deciduous forest biome. And here are some examples of organisms that live in our biome. And some of these organisms have similar adaptive strategies. So today in class, you will be making a foldable. You will have to fold your paper accordion style into six sections. You will label each section with a vocabulary word. On these 6 sections, once you open up the flap, you will write a definition in your own words that is critical to receiving full credit. You're not just copying straight from the textbook. And here are your 6 key terms: evolution, adaptation, fitness, artificial selection, natural selection, and fossil. Again, you are writing a clear, complete definition in your own words. You will include one sentence or example that shows your understanding of how the word is used in context. An example of a sentence is, natural selection allows giraffes with longer necks to survive and reproduce. Again, the key term here would be natural selection, so you would want to make sure it's underlined. You will also use color and organization to make your foldable easy to read and visually appealing. So let's look at our first key term. Our first key term here is change over time or evolution. The definition of evolution is change over time. So it looks at how a population of organisms change over the course of time. So the process by which modern organisms have descended from ancient organisms. So here we have a modern example of a human or Homo sapien, and we can see how it has transitioned over thousands, if not millions of years from less evolved organism to a more evolved organism. So you see that the arm length have gotten shorter, and humans have become more erect over time. The next key term here is adaptation. An adaptation is a heritable characteristic that increases an organism's ability to survive and reproduce in its environment. So the key here is that the trait or adaptation gets passed on from generation to generation, and that organisms are able to survive and reproduce in their environment. So here are several examples of different finches. We have a large ground finch, the medium ground finch, and the small ground finch. All of these finches have beaks that are adapted for eating seeds. So their beaks are crushing beaks. Here we have the cactus finch, a warbler finch, and a woodpecker tree finch. These all have the grasping beaks and or probing beaks. These allow these finches to eat insects, and the cactus eater is unique in that it is in cactus. So it still has that probing beak, but it is designed more so for eating cactus. Here we have a vegetarian tree finch. This vegetarian tree finch has a larger beak that is good for eating fruit. So it's able to crush those through that fruit to get what it needs. The next key term here is fitness. So we think of fitness in terms of exercise, but what fitness actually is how well an organism can survive and reproduce in its environment. So if we look at these two moths, one is a light and the other one is a dark peppered moth, uh, they have adapted differently. So the light peppered moth is more fit to survive in an environment that has the light colored trees. So before the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom, the trees were lighter colored. So the more fit moth, the light peppered moth, uh, was able better to survive and reproduce. During the Industrial Revolution, as soot fell onto the trees became increasingly dark. This made it better adapted for the dark peppered moths to survive. They were able to blend into the tree and therefore not easily as eaten. And we'll see a couple of examples as we work through or use this as an example as we work through this unit later. The next key term is artificial selection. Now, this is a type of selection that humans do. So we selectively breed our organisms. For example, we have the dog down here. The modern domestic dog is a descendant of the wolf, and it was able to the dogs were able to exist through a process of selective breeding. So humans would breed docile wolves until we got to dogs. We currently see the same thing with the Labradoodle. So where they're taking the Labrador Retriever and creating the mixed breed of the Labrador Retriever and a Poodle as through a selective breeding process. And that's an example of artificial selection. We often see this done with farming as well. So in farming, this is a picture of a chicken in 1957 versus a chicken today. So by artificially selecting larger and larger birds, we can make larger and larger breeds and thereby creating more and more food. The next key term here is natural selection. It's a process by which nature is naturally selecting organisms that are most suited to their environment, allowing them to survive and reproduce more successfully. This is also called survival of the fittest. So if we look at this picture here, we have the three giraffes, the giraffes with long neck and giraffes with shorter neck. As we can see, the giraffes with longer necks are able to reach the top branches and get food, whereas the giraffe with shorter necks cannot. These giraffes, the shorter ones, will be selected against and end up dying or not surviving to reproduce, whereas the tall, longer necks were able to survive and pass the long neck trait on to their offspring. Our last key term here is fossil. It is the preserved remains or traces of ancient organisms. We are all familiar with fossilized rock that we can find of organisms, dinosaur fossils. Here we have a fossil of a crab and other organisms. It can also include things like poop that was left back, that would be considered a trace fossils, as well as footprints. Hopefully this video is helpful, and I hope to see you in class. Bye.